Good morning, my dear students of class 12. Welcome to your economics class. So, students, in our last class, we have discussed the topic industry and trade from the chapter Indian Economy 1950 to 1990, isn't it? So, today you even had your chapter test. So, I hope you all have done quite well and you'll be getting the marks as well as the answer keys today itself. Well, students, the last topic that we discussed, that is industry and trade, there we came to know that in India, even though a mixed economic framework was adopted, but it was the public sector which played a dominant role. It was the public sector which took the initiative in the growth of the industries. The role of the private sector was very much limited. In fact, it was confined only to complement the activities of the private sector. The role of the private sector was so much limited, and there were so many rules and regulations and restrictions which were imposed on the private sector, isn't it? So students, this brings us to the next chapter of your Indian economy textbook, that is economic reform since 1991, and this chapter is very much a part of your PT1 syllabus. So today we will basically discuss two topics from this chapter. First is the introduction to the new economic policy, and the second one is about liberalization. Students, let me tell you, there is a connection between the first topic of this chapter and the previously held chapter, the previously discussed chapter. Till the topic that we discussed, that is industry and trade, everything was going quite well. The industrial sector was flourishing, the annual growth of industries was also increasing. Then something might have happened that led the government to introduce this new economic policy. So today we will basically discuss what actually happened that compelled the government to introduce these new economic reforms, that compelled the government to take such a drastic step, that these new economic reforms changed the entire economic scenario of the country. Then something might have happened that led the government to take such a bold step. So today we will basically be discussing about the background of the new economic policy and liberalization, which happens to be the first important policy reform initiated under the new economic policies. All right. So students, the mixed economic framework which was introduced in India, rather than doing any good, it turned out to be harmful for the growth of the country. Why? Because of the strict rules and restrictions which were imposed on the private sector. The private sector was not allowed to grow to its fuller extent. The government was not allowing the private sector to grow. There were so many rules and regulations. So how will the private sector grow, isn't it? And then students, since the government was mainly working on the development of the country, the government also had to incur a lot of expenditure on various developmental projects. So beyond a certain point, the government expenditure became excess of the government revenue. That means the government spent more than it could earn. There were very few sources of revenue. Taxation was there, and the income of the public sector enterprises was there. And students, both these sources were not sufficient for the government to earn as much revenue that it could spend on the various developmental projects. So the government had no other option but to resort to heavy borrowings. And students, not only that, the government also had to borrow money from the other countries, from the rest of the world, to finance its imports. For example, the import of oil, then the import of petrol, etc. So the burden of national debt became so much more that it became difficult for the government to pay even the interest. The foreign exchange reserves which was left with the government was so less that it could not be used to manage the imports even for 2 weeks. Okay. So the burden of national debt increased to such a level that in the year 1991, the total GNP that was generated in the country, 60% of it was used to repay national debt or to repay national loans. And not only that, students, the prices of the domestic products also became exorbitantly high. Many private sector, public sector enterprises were running under losses, but still they were not shut down. So different types of problems started surrounding the Indian economy, and sufficient revenue was also not generated from taxation or public borrowing. And then students, what happened? In the late 1980s, the burden of national debt increased to such a level that meeting the demand through borrowings also became infeasible. Now most of the countries also were unwilling to lend money to India, because India was so much under debt already that no other country was willing to give out any loans to India. And Whatever foreign currency reserves was available, most of time it was used to meet the consumption demands of the people. Export was not encouraged. Export was falling down, imports were increasing, debts were increasing, borrowings were increasing, prices were increasing. So India literally went through a situation of economic crisis in the year 1991. So students, as a last hope, India approached the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is the present day World Bank and IMF. And after much negotiations, IBRD agreed to give a loan of 7 billion US dollar to India, but three conditions were there. First, India will have to liberalize its economy. Liberalize means the various rules and restrictions which were imposed, those have to be liberalized or those have to be relaxed. And the second thing, India should remove the trade barriers. We all knew that in the last chapter that we discussed, we knew that India imposed tariffs and quotas to protect the domestic industries, so that there will be no competition from the foreign countries. So the second condition was that India should remove all these restrictions on trade, and India should allow the other countries to trade with itself. Okay. And then students, the third condition was that the role of the government should be reduced, because it was the government which was dominating most of the sectors. So the third condition was that the role of the government should be reduced and the private sector should be given the right or the freedom to take their own decisions. And then students, these three conditions, they form the basis of the new economic policy. And the Indian government at the time had no other option but to accept to these terms and conditions, but to agree to these terms and conditions. And this led to the introduction of the new economic policy or the economic reforms of 1991. When India agreed to these three conditions, the entire economic scenario of India changed. So students, the policy reforms which were adopted under the new economic policy were broadly categorized into two groups. One was the stabilization measures and the other one is the structural reform measures. Stabilization measures basically are the short-term measures which are adopted to correct the problems which were faced by India in an instant manner. That means these were the short-term measures which were adopted to correct the immediate problems which were faced by India at that time. For example, the situation of deficit, when the borrowings or the expenditure was more than revenue. So to correct the situation of BOP, balance of payment, that means to bring a balance in the situation of revenue and expenditure. And the second point was to control the situation of inflation, to bring the rising prices under control. So the stabilization measures were adopted to bring immediate changes in the problems which were faced by India, to control the situation of BOP and to control the situation of inflation. Okay. And then the structural reform measures, these are the long-term measures which were adopted to help India grow, to help India increase its efficiency so that it can compete with the international market by removing various kinds of restriction. And students, it is under these structural reform measures, three policies were initiated: liberalization, privatization and globalization. And these three are the essence of this chapter. 90% of your chapter comes under these three topics. Okay. So today we are going to discuss with the first policy initiative, that is liberalization. We all know the meaning of liberalization: to relax, isn't it? To give some kinds of exemption, to help remove some kind of barriers. That means less strict rules and regulations. So liberalization basically means the removal or the relaxation of restrictions or rules and regulations which were imposed on various sectors, mostly in the sector of industry and trade. So basically liberal policies or less strict policies were adopted in the industrial and trade sector. Not only in the industrial sector, in all the sectors liberal policies were adopted. The strict policies which India had initially adopted had led to this economic crisis. So it's time for India to adopt liberal policies. So the first area in which liberalization was adopted was in the industrial sector. So students, the industrial sector was deregulated. Initially it was under the strict regulation of the government, but now it has been deregulated. So various steps were taken. First, the system of industrial licensing was abolished. Initially the industries were required to obtain prior permission from the government in the form of license to set up new industry, to expand its business, to diversify its products, to produce new products. But now no such licensing was required. But only in few industries the licensing policy was still there, because those few industries were hazardous mostly. So in some industries the policy of licensing was still there, but apart from those industries the system of licensing was basically abolished for all the other industries. So the industries in which the system of licensing was still there were alcohol, cigarettes, then hazardous chemicals, industrial explosives, then electronics, aerospace, drugs and pharmaceuticals. So except these industries, all other industries were exempted from this license, okay, from this system of licensing. And then students, initially most of the industries were reserved by the public sector, but now only a few industries were reserved for the public sector. Rest all industries were allowed to be operated by the private sector as well. Only 3 industries were reserved for public sector: defense equipments, atomic energy and railways. And then students, initially most of the products were reserved for the small scale industries, and in this way the domestic industries were protected. But now many products of the small scale industries were de-reserved. That means other industries were also allowed to produce these products. And students, in some industries the market was allowed to determine the prices, okay. And then students, the next sector in which liberal policies were adopted was the financial sector. So let me tell you what a financial sector is. It basically includes all the financial institutions of a country, right from the RBI, then the commercial banks, investment banks, then the foreign exchange market, then the stock market, etc. So the various reform measures which were taken in the financial sector were: number 1, to modify the role of the RBI from a regulator to a facilitator. Initially, in every activity, in every decision, the various financial institutions were required to obtain a permission from RBI. But now this kind of permissions were no longer required. They were allowed to take their own major decisions. So the role of the RBI was shifted from regulator to a facilitator. And then students, private sector banks, both Indian and foreign, were allowed in the country. And then foreign investment limit was raised to 51%. Before the new economic policy it was 40%, but now it has been increased to 51%. That means foreign investment was also allowed in the country, and it was increased, the percentage was increased. And then students, those banks which fulfilled the conditions which were put forward by the government were also allowed to set up their branches without obtaining any approval or permission from the RBI, okay. And then students, the various foreign institutional investors were allowed to invest in the Indian economy. For example, the foreign institutional investors like the pension funds, then the merchant banks, then the foreign companies, then the mutual funds were allowed to invest in the Indian share market or in the Indian equity market. So these kind of liberal measures or policies were adopted in the financial sector. And then students, the next type of reforms which was introduced was the fiscal reform. Fiscal reform basically means the reforms in the taxation policy and in the public expenditure policies. So students, in August 1991, a tax reform committee was set up, and the committee recommended the following reforms. So first, the rates of income tax on different income tax slabs were reduced. So students, income tax slabs means the taxpayers are categorized or divided into different groups according to their capability to pay tax. Not everyone has the equal capability to pay same amount of tax. So the tax amount should differ according to the income level of people, isn't it? So the rate of tax which was imposed on different income tax slabs, it was reduced. And then students, some kind of benefits or some kind of relaxation on tax was given to some particular sectors. For example, power sector, then special economic zones and the shipping sector. So special economic zones basically are the zones which basically operate with the motive to expand trade and business. So in those zones, the rules and regulations are much less as compared to the other normal zones. So students, in the power sector and in the special economic zones and in the shipping sector, some kind of tax benefits were allowed. Then students, value added tax was introduced. So value added tax was basically introduced for achieving a non-cascading and harmonized community taxation regime. So students, in value added tax, what happens, the level of tax, it goes on increasing, because at every level of production a certain amount of tax is added, but who pays the final amount? It is the consumer, or the final the buyer, the person who finally purchases the ultimate product. That person is the one who pays the tax. So value added tax was introduced for achieving a non-cascading. Non-cascading means a single tax system. That means even though the tax amount will go on to add at different levels of production, but the final tax will be paid by whom? By one person, that is the consumer. And initially, even though the primary sector or the secondary sector has paid the tax, they will be given a reimbursement of the tax amount which they have previously paid. So students, VAT was introduced as a single tax system in order to achieve a non-cascading. Cascading means something which passes from one stage to another. So VAT was introduced as a system to achieve a non-cascading. Non-cascading means only one person, a single system of tax. The final tax will be paid by whom? By the consumer. So it was introduced as a for achieving a non-cascading and harmonized community taxation system. A single tax will be paid by everyone. Okay. So students, the next was excise duty were rationalized using central value added tax. So students, excise duties basically are the duties or the taxes which are imposed on the sale and manufacturing of goods. So different types of taxes are there. Indirect taxes are there. For example, sales tax, service tax is there, then Swachh Bharat cess is there. So all those taxes were a part of, all these taxes are a part of excise duties. So these excise duties were rationalized, or the rates of excise duties were reduced through the system of central value added tax. And then students, the rates of custom duties. Custom duties are the taxes which are imposed on import and exports. So the rate of custom duties were also reduced to only 15% in the budget of 2006 and 2007. So these kind of liberal policies were adopted in the fiscal policies of the government. Most of the tax amounts were reduced. The percentage of tax that the people were required to pay were reduced. Some kind of relaxation was given. Okay. And then students, the next area where these liberal policies were adopted was the foreign exchange reforms. So as an immediate solution to the BOP crisis that the country was facing, excess of expenditure over borrowing, an immediate step was taken, that was to devalue Indian currency against foreign currency. Students, what happens when the Indian currency is devalued with respect to foreign currency? The value of Indian currency will come down, and comparatively the value of the foreign currency will increase. That means now $1 can buy more Indian goods, and this is basically done to encourage exports. What will happen if the Indian currency will devalue? The Indian goods will become cheaper, isn't it? So this will encourage the foreigners to buy more and more Indian goods. So this was basically done to encourage exports, and when there will be an increase in export, there will be more inflow of foreign currency. So this was basically done to encourage the export of the country, so that there will be more and more inflow of foreign exchange. And students, this resulted in an increase in the foreign exchange in India. And then students, the next area where these liberal policies were adopted was trade and policy related reforms. So students, import licensing was removed. Initially, to buy goods from abroad, people were required to have a license or a permission, but now no such licensing was required anymore, except for some particular products, the hazardous and the environmentally sensitive industries. Only those were required to obtain the license, but the other industries were no longer required to import goods, any other good except these two goods. So students, in April 1991, quantitative restrictions, that means how much goods we can produce or we can import. So basically the quota that is imposed, the maximum limit which the government prescribed, that is we cannot import goods beyond this level. So these quantitative restrictions on imports of manufactured consumer goods and agricultural products were also removed. That means this quota system was also removed, and now capital goods, the inputs and machineries, were also allowed to be imported from abroad. Okay. And then students, export duties were also removed. Export duties means the duty or the tax which is levied on the export of goods. So export duties were also removed to increase the competitive position of Indian goods in the international market, so that the Indian goods will be able to compete with the foreign goods or the foreign products. And then students, the competition was emphasized. This time the emphasis was more on competition, on achieving international standards of quality. Previously the emphasis was on expansion, but now the emphasis was on growth, was on increasing efficiency, was on increasing competition. So market competition gradually replaced the policy of tariffs and quotas. So the entire Indian economy was liberalized. Rules and regulations and restrictions were removed. The various tariffs and quotas were removed. Licensing policy was removed. So in this way the Indian economy moved one step towards liberalizing its economy. Okay. So students, today we have discussed about the background of the new economic policy. We came to know that India suffered from a crisis because of the rigid rules and regulations which were imposed on the private sector. The trade was not allowed, there were barriers to trade, then licensing was required. Because of all that, the Indian economy literally faced a crisis. So India had to resort to the IBRD to obtain a loan. IBRD gave the loan to India, but India had to agree to certain conditions. And when India agreed to all the conditions, this led to the introduction of the new economic policy. And new economic policy basically included three very important policies: liberalization, privatization and globalization. So today we have discussed about the concept of liberalization and the liberal policies which were adopted in the industrial sector, financial sector, then in the fiscal reforms, then foreign exchange reforms, and the trade and policy related reforms. Okay. So students, if you have any doubt, do let me know. I'll surely help you. Okay then, thank you. Take care and stay safe.